Cool. And how did you guys get involved with CadIz, or how did you guys find out about CadIz?
Well, so about me, the story is short. I've been living in Marbella, in Malaga,
Okay,
for a
okay,
few years,
yeah,
and I didn't actually like Malaga because they were on top. The 2012, 2013 Champions League season, they were on
yeah,
top. I decided to
yeah.
choose something which is a bit lower. So the nearest was Cadiz. So Cadiz
Okay,
from the year 2014 is in my heart.
okay. What 2014? What we were in second division or third?
I thought so, yeah.
Uh,
Third.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, that was a while. When I became a CadIz fan in 1995 when we were in third division.
Whoa,
Different.
whoa, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. That was like
I'm a lot
absolute
older than you
survival.
guys.
10 years before my birth, actually. Oof.
It's all right. It's all right. You make me feel worse now.
You look
Uh,
great. Don't think about it. Actually, the first
no,
question is exactly about that. How did you get involved in CadIz? Why did you choose CadIz?
yeah, yeah. So when I was a little bit younger than you guys or than Leo, I my dad moved us to Spain to El Puerto de Santa Maria, which is this city right in front of Cadiz. So Cadiz, is a little peninsula, but just once you come out of the peninsula and kind of go to the left, you'll run El Puerto. And so we lived there when I was 11 until 13, and at that time, the story I've told a few times, but at that time Cadiz was not a very big club, and actually everyone in my school, they told you had to choose to either be a fan of Real Betis or Sevilla. So everybody in the school is like, the school was split in half fans for Sevilla, half fans for Betis. I don't remember people much talking about Cadiz, but I actually had a housekeeper who worked for us whose son played for Cadiz, I think. And so either on the first team or second team. And so she took us to Cadiz matches when we were kids, to watch them play when they're in the third division in Segunda B. And I all my life since then, so since 1995, I kept coming back to Cadiz and to El Puerto. It's just a magic place if you guys have been there. The city is incredible. The people are super sweet. The food is amazing. The history. Most of my Spanish friends, when I tell them, we're in Cadiz, they're like, "Oh my God, this is the best place in the world." And most of them also go to Cadiz on vacation. Like half of Spain, I feel like, has a vacation house in Cadiz. So anyway, then fast forward to 2020. So, and I've always been a football fan. I'm American, but love European football. And kind of like your story, I like the smaller team. I don't care about like the Premier League. I don't watch the Premier League. I don't know I'm not a fan of any of the teams in the Premier League. So when I was just after university, I lived in Germany, and so like my team in Germany is a team called Bochum, which is a little bit like Cadi,
Oof, yeah,
always on the relegation line, coming up and down. Small club, but with really passionate fans. And so I went to like every Bochum game during the 2007, 2008 season, something like that.
Wow.
cool.
So 2006,
That's cool.
2007 season. But anyway, so then it come 2020, we're all locked inside of our houses during COVID, bored as hell. And I started watching this Netflix show called Sunderland Till I Die, which is like about these guys that were running a football club in Northern England that maybe you know. And it showed everything about their lives. It showed the people in the club and the fans and the people, the staff, and got a really good inside look in what it's like to be part of a club. And it kind of inspired me. And so I started a process where I got a few friends that own clubs in Spain or were general. In fact, one of the guys who was previously general manager of Malaga worked on my behalf in this process too. And we systematically went out and we called like almost every club in Segunda B, so the third division, and the second division, and even some of the clubs in the first division of Spain, and tried to figure out like what it would cost to buy into a club. And at first I thought maybe I'll buy a club in like the third division and try to get it promoted up, which is a common opportunity. or I could buy minority stake in a bigger club and learn more of the business that way. So I went and I called all these clubs, probably 80 clubs, and I tracked them, how much they cost, how big their stadium was, how much debt they had, legal issues. If this was what was the GDP per capita of the city? Is this a city that's going to grow, or is it the city maybe going to get smaller or not have a lot of economic or growth opportunity? It was a very long process, but in the end, the best value for dollar and the best opportunity and the best situation was CadIz. And on top of the fact that it was, this club that I have this long history with and love dearly. So it was awesome. And so in 2020, I started negotiating with the other owners, and in 2021, officially announced that I joined as an owner in the club.
Well, we are really, really happy about that. Can you maybe tell us something about your business way, your life way after the university? Because we have a lot of young readers, so they can maybe take something from your path to go and to have such a tracker,
Sure. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to get involved in the ownership of a club without some capital. There have definitely been stories of people that have done it in very easy ways, like buying very cheaply into a club and then working systematically to get it brought up. But obviously you can't buy into a Division I club like that. So my background is I studied international relations in school. I thought I was going to do politics or something like that. I ultimately went to consulting and worked for a company called the Boston Consulting Group, which is a pretty well-known consulting company. And then I became an entrepreneur and a couple friends, and I started a business that became one of the largest commodity trading companies in Asia, headquartered out of Singapore and operating across Southeast Asia, East Asia, Africa, and even we had business even in Southeast Asia and East Asia, and then in 2015 I started, or a little bit earlier, I started investing in technology companies. And then eventually started a fund that was today called MSA, and we built that fund up into a pretty sizable scale. We invest in the tech companies that you guys probably have heard of or use and know every day. So names like Uber, Airbnb, a bunch of the biggest technology companies in China, many of the largest technology companies here in the Middle East where I am today, and many of the biggest tech companies in the US. So that was where my capital comes from, to enable me to get involved with CadIz.
Thank you. I'm sure that Leo has a few questions, so let's give him a word.
Yep. Like the infrastructure of the club in the city, like the stadium, are there any plans to build or to innovate our old stadium like Nova Mirandilia, considering that the current stadium is like already quite old, and the new project that like you did with the Tebas, with the La Liga Sported City, yeah, is really interesting and history and never been done before, I think, yeah. But what do you think about this project, and are there any plans to build a new building in Cali?
Yep. So I love our current stadium. Love it. I hope you guys have been able to see some games in person, but it's a really unique stadium. It's very urban. Our fans can come out of their apartments and walk to the stadium. Because we're tight with the buildings around us, it has very good acoustics. So when the team is being received before the game, the fans kind of pack this street just in front of just to the side of the stadium, and it creates an incredibly high energy environment and really loud environment for the team to come in, and really energizes the team. So probably one of the best receptions in all of Spanish football, maybe even all of global football, is the way we receive our team before the games. And the stadium itself is actually, I like the stadium too. It's obviously on the older side, but it's built vertically, so the fans have all a very good view of the field. In America, we often build stadiums like a bowl, so the fans at the edge have a very far view of the stadium and the field can't really get into it. Ours is like a box where you're really sitting right down on top of the field and the players, and so that again gives really good energy to the players. It gets very loud. And so I love it. And it's, as you know, the stadium is 150 meters or something from the beach. So I love our current stadium. There are some challenges with it. And the trend in football right now is to build more kind of permanent use stadiums, ones that can be used year round for concerts and conferences and other events. So, this year I was visiting, for instance, Atletico de Madrid's stadium with them, the owners there, and they're talking about how they've already paid back the cost of the stadium by, organizing conferences and concerts and things like that. So, obviously we'd love to be able to do more of that. It creates more revenue streams for the team and creates money that we can use to put into getting better players. So it's something that I'd love to do more of, but I personally don't really want to leave our current stadium. I love our current stadium. We needed to upgrade our facilities. So part of the Sport Tech City project that you've seen announced is obviously to build better training facilities for our two, for our first team and for our second team, as well as the academies. We have global interest every day for players to come train in CadIz as part of a global academy. And so we need to have better facilities for them. And we actually just announced our first kind of class of students from America that came into CadIz to train with us. So it's so part of the process is upgrading our facilities so that we can bring global football players to the team and to the city. Other than that, I mean, we've made some public announcements about some of the plans around the Sport Tech City. So
let's talk about a little comparison between USA and the EU. First of all, about the fans, there is an opinion that US fans are the loudest, the best fans in the world. Do you agree with this or not? Or you think that the Spanish fans are much better?
Oh, that's an easy answer. I mean, Spanish fans and particularly CadIz fans are completely on a different level than fans in the US. Because we don't have in American sports this concept of relegation. I have been to this last summer, for instance, I went to some Yankee games. The Yankees were playing terribly last season, and the walking into the stadium, it's like you're in a library. It's so quiet. Maybe if something happens, there's a little bit of a cheer, like someone hits a ball and it goes out of the park, and then there's but for 15 seconds. But other than that, it's very quiet. There's a huge difference between American sports and La Liga and football. I think American sports teams are better run. It's a much more professionally managed industry. They're great at making money on merchandising and social media and television rights. And so as a business, American sports are way ahead of what we have in Spain and across all of global football. But in terms of fan, no, not even close. I mean, again, this culture, the closest thing in America to like CadIz fans or to football fans would be college American football in America, right? Where these fans maybe went to the university, they feel very invested in its success of the team, they feel like it's their team. But otherwise, the fans that we have and the types of attention they draw, the energy they bring, the noise they create, there's nothing like it in America, and there's nothing even like it across all of Spanish football. The thing I love so much about our fans in CadIz is they have no reason to celebrate. We've never done a good enough job as owners to bring them a trophy to the city. We've never won Copa del Rey. We've never won, or we've never even finished higher than 12th in the La Liga. We've never played in European football, and yet our fans are better than. They're better than fans in England. I mean, if you go to a Premier League game, Chelsea or something like that. I went to a game there last fall. It's quiet because it's so expensive to go to their games that all the ultras and super fans are gone, and so you don't have that kind of intensity. And so Spanish football, and I think of course German football has this as well, have this level of intensity that you don't see elsewhere.
Right. And what's the biggest difference between the sports marketing in the US and in Spain? Why the American sport is much more profitable than the European?
I think it's because, in America, so again, they don't have relegation, so that league is fixed. So essentially the teams and the value of the league can only go up. the leagues are very good at negotiating TV rights. And America is the media capital of the world. We have Hollywood, we have, all the biggest television companies, we have many of the biggest, musicians and things like that. So America just has a very mature entertainment industry. And so we know how to kind of turn sport into entertainment. If you've seen like the Super Bowl and you see the halftime show with Coldplay and Taylor Swift, and we have nothing like that in European football. And it's only now like that we're starting to have concerts of a real scale in stadiums like a Real Madrid, and Taylor Swift is playing there this summer or this spring. So there's, and we just have a very mature sports market in America. So, we're really good at merchandise sales. We're really good at commercial partnerships. So, we don't even, in America, you don't even have brands on the jerseys, right? Except for now in the NBA, where you have like a little brand up here. But, and even without that, they've done such an amazing job to work with brands. And it's easy because, again, most of the biggest brands that have the biggest marketing budgets are from America, right? Most of the most valuable companies in the world are from America. So they work hand in hand with their sports partners. And so that level of professionalism is just, and then you look at the facilities in America. I mean, again, like the quality of I always say the quality of the athletic facilities in American high schools are better than most clubs in La Liga, let alone American college teams or American professional teams, which are on another planet. So it's just an overall much better run operation.
And the last question about the business and marketing: do you believe that CadIz can get the success in the American markets as for example, in the social media, like some Russian teams on TikTok a few years ago, or on the sports market, maybe with some tournaments?
So it's hard. And I mean, I'm an American, but we intentionally went to the US market, or North America, last of all of the global markets that we were looking at as CadIz. And that's because I know that there's so much competition there. There's so many other distractions for fans there, with all of the, the big four leagues, plus golf and hockey and tennis and motorsports. So there's just infinite distractions for American sports fans. And so in order for like a club like ours, which is already relatively unknown even within Europe, to try to break into that and gain interest amongst American fans would be very challenging and unrealistic. And so we have to kind of find different ways to tap into those fans. We have to target like El Salvadorians living in the United States who still have a good, relationship with Magico Gonzalez, or we have to target kind of special narratives around CadIz. American fans really like the idea of an underdog. So when we have a game like we had last Saturday, where we beat Atletico de Madrid 2-0 at home, this is huge because this is a Champions League club, and we're a team that hadn't won in 6 months. People in America love those underdog stories. They love stories like Rudy. So we had to tap into those kind of narratives, and that's why since I joined the club in 2021, I really focused on other markets. I focused on the Middle East. I focused on East and Southeast Asia. I focused on Africa, and we've done incredibly well in those markets. So we went to the places where other people weren't, and we did better there.
Thank you. Let's talk a bit about Alvaro Cervera, who was the coach who got CadIz to La Liga. He's one of the biggest, he's one of the biggest people in CadIz history because of the fact of getting promoted. What's your do you like Alvaro? Do you feel sorry that he just couldn't cope with La Liga status or a strong game?
So I didn't personally know Alvaro Cervera very well. I came on board the team in 2021, and I was trapped in China with zero COVID at the time. As you know, they kind of set it up so you couldn't leave the country easily. So I've never met Alvaro Cervera in person, and don't know him very well. We as a club are eternally grateful to him for what he did in bringing us from, kind of second division or third division to second into first. I think he has a very unique style of play. And in the first year where we were in the league, that play worked very well. We kind of snuck up on people. People weren't ready for it. That was the year we beat we beat our Barcelona with Messi on the field. We beat Real Madrid away, even though there was no one in the stadium. We beat some other big clubs and had our highest finish, or tied our highest finish ever, with 12th in the league. So I think there was a period where it worked, and then the second year it didn't work as well. I think other clubs kind of figured out our approach, and the numbers reflected that. We were really struggling at the time. We decided to change coaches, and I think it was the right decision. We changed coaches to Sergio, and that saved the season. And that was obviously one of the coolest things ever, was that night when we survived at Alaves. So again, really appreciative to him, and wish him well as he continues to pursue his coaching journey.
About Sergio, actually, he's also one of the greatest coaches in CadIz history. And like, what traits of his, like, I think you know him better, than Silvera. And I saw this, like, I think that was FaceTime after we saved our season in Elche. Yeah, and that was a fun moment. So what do you think in general, what prevented him from staying in the ranks of La Liga with Cadi? And do you regret about that his things didn't work out this season with him?
Yeah. Again, as someone, of course, I have spent a lot of time with. I find him to be an incredible human being, really great person, really down to earth, really had a calming force within the locker room. When things were challenging, he was always calm. Obviously, it was, one of the highlights of my life so far, talking with him that night when we survived relegation, and obviously led us through another challenging season last year, where we started, statistically, as I think maybe the worst football club in all of Europe. 5 losses, no wins. 5 losses, no goals, 15 or whatever, 14 goals against. And then we were able to resurrect it and ended the season actually relatively comfortably in the end. Again, I think the challenge in the league is, if you fall into the trap of a certain kind of system with a certain kind of player, other teams eventually figure you out. And I think we had been doing the same thing for so long last year and in the first half of this year. Other teams had kind of figured us out. As you know, during that 6-month stretch of not winning, it was really challenging. It's always hard to figure, know what's the right decision. Is it missing a player? Is it missing the coach? But obviously, as a team, we don't have the luxury of changing players day to day. We can only bring in new players at the transfer window. And so at those types of moments when we're really struggling and the performance is just consistently bad, the only thing we can do as owners is try to change the coaching system and bring in a fresh set of eyes, a fresh set of strategies and tactics, and hopefully that injects life into the club and enables you to survive, as we did, Cervera to Sergio, and now Sergio today. And so you never know if it's the right decision. It was really painful for me to see him go, because again, we really incredible human, but we needed to make a change, and it looks to be now, based on our last game, like that was the right decision. You can see the performance on the field. You can see people getting more engaged. We obviously brought in a few really good pieces at the transfer window, and hopefully this is enough to help us stay in the league at the end of the season.
Yeah, for
Talking
me,
about the transfers. Hello. Come on.
you can tell.
Thanks. Talking about the transfers, I just can't leave this question behind, because I'm a fan of Spartak Moscow, if you take Russian clubs. Teo Bongonda, you're the businessman. Can you tell us a bit about the transfer? How was it going? How was the negotiations going? Maybe a bit.
Sure. I mean, Teo's an amazing player, scored one of our best goals of the season last season. Obviously, a really talented player, and someone that I think very highly of. certainly played a very key role in helping us to stay in the league last season and just had some really important goals. That said, he was a player that I think had aspirations of being kind of in a different city, in a different club. I think CadIz was, he's obviously not from Spain. His primary languages are not Spanish. And I think he was just more accustomed to a certain type of place and club and city that probably wasn't exactly. CadIz isn't a perfect fit for every player. On top of that, obviously, I mean, you guys watched the same games I did. He would occasionally make an incredible goal, and then at least 2 or 3 times a game, he would also, sky the ball over the goal in very frustrating fashion. So, I think at this point, it's fans like to remember all the good, but they forget a lot of the frustrating times as well. So we did what we thought was in the best interest of the club, and we had a really good offer on the table, obviously from Spartak, and we took the deal. That enabled us to create more revenue or more capital that we could recycle and get other players, and we used that during the fall transfer window, or the beginning of the season transfer window, very effectively. We brought in all kinds of incredible players that are making a huge impact today, like Robert Navarro and others. So I think it was the right decision. He obviously started the season really well at Spartak and scored a bunch of goals, so that made the decision a little bit more painful, or second guessing ourselves. But I think it was the right decision for all parties, because he really wanted to be in a different type of place, and we got a good amount of capital out of it that we could recycle into building out more of a team with less risk on one single player.
Actually, many fans of Spartak Moscow now say that CadIz just grabbed money from Spartak for a piece of what, because he plays a bit not really great.
We made the right decision.
Oh yeah, of course. Let's talk about a bit about social medias of CadIz. You have accounts in the social medias on very different languages, which is Arab, German, French, Japanese, Indian. The admins of these social medias sometimes give strong jokes. You have 7 million subscribers in the TikTok, which is actually, I think, the most developing social media in the world. How does the club wants to develop this way of marketing, and what are your plans on the social media itself?
Yeah. So, again, going back to that point I made. So when I joined the club in CadIz, we have an amazing city. We have an amazing group of fans, amazing commercial partners in CadIz, but we had hit kind of our ceiling. I mean, there's not that many new fans within the city of Cádiz or Andalusia that we can go out and grab and bring them to bring on board Cádiz. We have to wait for our current fans to have babies and to pass the Cádiz fandom down to their children. And it's a relatively small group, and we had saturated it. So it was clear to me that the only way we were going to grow this club, and when I mean grow it, I mean grow the number of followers, the number of engagements, clicks, likes, comments, and ultimately, of course, grow our revenue stream, was to build a more global presence. How do you build a global presence for a club that has never won anything, has no famous players other than maybe Mágico González, and very few people? I mean, I'm much older than you guys. I'm more than double Leo's age, and even I had never really heard of Mágico before I came to Cádiz. So he's famous to our fans, but not hugely globally famous. And we don't have many famous players, on our team today. Maybe Negredo was probably the most well-known player that we had over the last couple of years because of his stints in other major clubs. So how do you take a club like that and build a global presence? It starts for us with social media. And the way we do it is we reach out to our fans in their language, in their culture, in their kind of social norms, and in a way that's very active and very thoughtful. And I realized very quickly by looking at the social media accounts of many of the other big teams in La Liga, they weren't doing it. They were just, they had their one Spanish account, and they were translating the Spanish posts into Bahasa Indonesia or into French or into Arabic or Russian, whatever, but they weren't really reaching out to fans in that market. They were just offering them translated content. So what we did is we set up social media teams in each one of these markets that are from that, culture, and know what are kind of the comedies that are popular right now, and the memes and the social trends, the TikTok trends or whatever. And then we have them bring those into our local social media accounts. And then we reach out to local influencers, we reach out to local fans, and we really find a way to basically organically, because all of this is unpaid. I mean, we're not spending a lot of money on this. We're not paying some famous Russian influencer to come in and promote our club for his followers. So we've got to do this in a very asset light, but a very organic and very authentic way. And it's worked incredibly well. I mean, today we have the 6th most followed, for instance, Twitter account here in the Middle East in Arabic. And we did that without any players even from the region. So you had players, you had teams like Sevilla or Betis, or obviously some of the bigger guys that had more famous regional players from Morocco or Egypt or whatever. We didn't have anything like that. We now have Owusu for the first time, who's from Syria, and I think was essentially unknown, certainly by global standards, prior to joining our club. So we didn't have that type of a hook. So we had to do Arabic content. We had to put little short films in Arabic. We had to do jokes in Arabic. We had to find club partners here in the Middle East. And so one of my jobs was to go out and bring in clubs like this one here, Al Jazeera from UAE, or Al Nasser in Saudi Arabia, or Al Ahly in Egypt. So the biggest clubs in their respective markets, and bring them as our partners so we could do social media activations, other things. And so long story short, it's worked incredibly well. We today have about 10, 11 million combined social media followers. As you said, a large majority of them come from TikTok, which was one of the accounts that we launched after I came on board. And we just feel really strongly that this is our best chance, aside from performance on the field, which is harder to control for me because I'm less involved in that day to day. I can control our global social media platform. So no matter we win or lose, survive or die, I can keep putting out content that brings new fans to us, and hopefully keeps them with us, because they love our underdog narrative. They love it when we have a win like we did last week. They love it how we engage with them and show respect for them and their culture in ways that other clubs from Europe simply are not.
Yeah, about social media, Bangonda moved to Spartak. We texted Spartak, and they have 2 million subscribers, I think, in Vkontakte, which is Russian social media, and they we posted our agreement with Bangonda, and we just gained 3,000 of subscribers immediately with this. So that was really crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to do things like that. We just added, for instance, a ton of new Instagram followers over the last few months because of Owusu, because people from Syria who live all over the world, they're not just in Syria, but they're sitting in Europe, they're sitting in here, elsewhere in the Middle East. They love Instagram, and they love supporting their national team player. And so they've been hugely engaged with us because of his performance on the field and involvement with the club.
About refereeing in CadIz games, and not only in CadIz, but in La Liga, it's really a big question, I think, in the last years. Because if we look at last season, a lot of points were stolen from Cadiz. I think, if you can remember, Elche, Getafe, yeah, that was really painful. And not only with Cadiz, when you see this moment with Real Madrid a few weeks ago against Valencia.
Yeah.
What do you think about refereeing in La Liga, in Cadiz games?
Yeah, it's challenging. I mean, and it's kind of the construction of the refereeing in Spain is different than obviously what you have in the UK. It's not an independent entity. It's a part of an entity that also controls various levels of football in Spain and the national team. So it's a little bit too interrelated for my taste. I wish it was more of an independent entity. Clearly, VAR is not helping things. And it does sometimes feel like everything's going against us. Last season, we certainly had a lot of decisions that went against us. this season, maybe 2 or 3. I certainly can't blame any major refereeing issues this season, maybe other than that Momo handball that happened at the beginning of the season, which was really frustrating. Overall, though, it's something that I've spoken about on social media. I'm hugely frustrated by it. No real easy solutions, but I think we need to relook at refereeing in the league, relook at VAR. We should probably install goal line technology so that we know if the ball actually went across the goal, even though that's not been something that's hurt CadIz at all to date much. And just think about other global best practices, like maybe in the UK, how they've dealt with refereeing. It's been an unnecessarily controversial thing, but it's always going to be like that in any league. People are always going to blame referees if anything goes against them.
Thank you. Let's get to our subscribers' questions. The first one is pretty easy one. What's your favorite moment linked with CadIz? Like in all time from 1995 when you started supporting our favorite club?
For me, I think I have to pick a memory that's from my time as a co-owner, because it's one thing to be a fan, it's another thing to be an owner. I always want to tell fans, I'm just like you. I love this club as much as you do. The only difference is I've obviously invested even more of my own personal capital and time than I ever thought I would in the club. And so, sometimes I can't even watch. Like, I didn't watch the Atletico de Madrid game because it's too painful for me to watch the games. It's actually ruined football for me in a way, because I'm so nervous and I'm in so much pain that I'd rather just hide in the bathroom or something rather than watch the games. Or go to the gym or do anything to keep my mind off of it. But for me, definitely the high point or the most exciting moment was that survival game at Alaves in 2022. Particularly just given, the likelihood that we were going to go down, how challenging, we basically had to have, both, I think, Espanyol and or both Granada and Mallorca either lose or tie. So we didn't have control over our own destiny. Espanyol, Granada missed that penalty kick in the end, so it was drama up until the last second. And really, I think no one expected it to come out the way it did. I would be lying if I said, and I wasn't there personally. Again, I was kind of locked in China, but you can even see it. There are videos that my parents took, because my parents were at the game in Alaves, inside the owner's box. Everyone's just crying. I mean, just weeping, just overcome with emotion because of just the exhaustion and happiness and relief of that moment. So I think that would be it. Other than that, I really loved the game where we were playing against, I've talked about this before, but we had this game where we were playing at Barcelona in 2020.
I guess.
Against just after Xavi had joined the club. Maybe it was early 2023, spring 2023, and they declared Barcelona's back, and they were, and we'd had this issue with a player from Barcelona that we'd hoped to bring on to CadIz, and he had kind of rejected us, so he didn't want to join CadIz. And then in the end, we win that game at Barcelona, and they're all on the field kind of with their hands in their faces, just overwhelmed. That was pretty fun. So maybe those two.
I just got completely into goosebumps when you were talking. It was like amazing.
Talking about Luke de Jong, yeah?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
And another question from our subscribers: which minuses can you mark in Spanish football from like the economics, from some inner games? How can you? What do you think? How can they fix it? Spanish football to get back on top of the world football like it was in 2010, actually.
This is a great question, and it's the thing that keeps me the most frustrated. Spanish football deserves to be the best league in the world. I mean, we have the best talent pipeline of talent. We have the best fans. We have the best conditions for playing football. You want to go watch a game in Cadiz where we have beautiful sunshine and great food and carnivals going on in the background. You want to go somewhere in England where it's rainy and depressing. I saw a video someone made a couple of days ago about what life is like in Manchester. I mean, who wants to go to Manchester? So, so we've got all the right conditions, and we have the pedigree. I mean, we win all the European Cups. We do it with Sevilla historically in the Europa Cup, and with Barcelona and Real Madrid and Champions League. So we have all the history. So one of my challenges, obviously, with our league, I think our league needs to do a better job of negotiating television rights. There's no reason why clubs in the UK should have so much more television revenue than us, and should be able to buy our players whenever they want and treat it like it's nothing, because they just, as one club like Chelsea did recently, spend more money than our entire league combined on transfers. That is largely down to the club's, the league's ability to negotiate TV rights. So for instance, when I joined as an owner, we were using BEN USA as our television partner in the US. I don't know anyone who watches BEN. I don't know anyone who has a BEN contract in America. So basically, you could not watch a La Liga game in America up until like 1 season ago, 2 seasons ago, which is crazy. So finally, now we've done a deal with ESPN Plus, but even that's not ideal because you still have to buy a TV contract or a special kind of subscription to use ESPN Plus. I want to be able to go into a bar in New York City and CBS or ABC or ESPN is on, and our games are right there. And that's not the case for every one of our games. So that to me starts with the league's ability to negotiate better TV rights for us. And then we as clubs need to, I wasn't, we obviously had the CBC deal, which is fairly controversial. But, the part of that deal was obviously to use that money to upgrade our facilities and some of those issues I mentioned. But the whole league just needs to be significantly more professionalized. And I think it's on the way. I hate to say it, but there are several now other American owners. There are at least 2 American owners that are friends of mine, one in the 3rd division, one in the 2nd division, who are probably going to get promoted up. And I think infusing kind of fresh ownership into La Liga will also help drive up the quality of some of the ownership groups. For instance, I mean, I think Mallorca are doing a very good job, and the owners of Mallorca are doing a very good job with that club. And that's a club that is owned again by Americans. So I think that by bringing in new owners, fresh thinking into the league, people that own, in the case of Mallorca, the owners there came from the Suns in the NBA, so they kind of know how to run a really professional sports organization from a U.S. perspective, but are still respectful of the culture and traditions of Spain. I think the more of that we do, the more we can help institutionalize some of this. Of course, there are cautionary tales. I think what's happened in Valencia and maybe Espanyol and even Almeria or Granada are challenging. So there needs to be a balance of foreign, capital and foreign input with people that really respect the clubs, respect the fans, and know what they're doing in the sport. But I think all that can help. But it starts at the top, and it starts with the La Liga's ability to better monetize our TV rights.
Thank you. And the last question from me, one famous Russian dude always asks this question. If you would stand in front of the president, what would you say or ask of your president? No.
Which president?
Joe Biden.
Oh, Biden. I mean, so it sounds pretty nerdy, but my kind of one of the things I spend a lot of my time is on U.S.-China policy. So I would, and I do, spend time in the White House talking with people like President Biden about how they deal with the world, and particularly China, and thinking about ways that they can engage with China in a way that's more constructive and supportive of U.S. interests, without kind of falling into easy traps around nationalism or protectionism. So that's where I spend a lot of my time, and the same is true for how America deals with the Middle East. I think our current Middle East policy is not great either, and so we've got to spend more time improving America's image and our role in the world relative to what it used to be and where it is now.
Thank you very much. Leo, do you have any other questions for Mr. Harburg?
Yeah, I think I have few left. Like, what does CadIz have? It's from our subscribers. Also, yeah. What does CadIz have that other clubs don't? And what is it about CadIz that attract people to watch and like maybe to chill for our club?
Sure. So like I said, it starts with the fans. I mean, we have the best fans in Spain. If you ask other clubs or other fans about our fans, they'll use this term muy simpático, but like our fans, we don't have rivals, we don't have enemies, we don't have a derby rival. I think we're relatively universally liked in Spain, and that's because our fans are amazing. They're funny, they're really smart, they know the game intimately. I follow many of our fans on Twitter, and I read all of their commentary about the club and the ownership. And sometimes they're critical of what the ownership does, and that's fair. But they're also very supportive of the players, and they have really good thoughts on the team and on player selection and strategy. And their passion is incredible. I mean, again, just sitting with them, especially, I remember so vividly last few games of last season. I went to the Valladolid game, I went to the Celta game. The passion of the fans, the energy that they brought to the city, to the stadium, to the team is just unmatched. And that passion becomes infectious, and it brings other people into the club, into the city. We're doing things today that no team of our scale should do. So we have one of the major TV networks now running a pilot for us to do a documentary series about Cadiz, an incredible documentary. We've had documentary filmmakers on the ground in Cadiz for the last 2 home games. That footage will come out in a documentary film later this year, because I kind of tried to put Cadiz on the map of other people in the media space, people in the documentary space. And when they came and saw it with their own eyes, they were just like, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. One of the most beautiful cities in all of Europe, the best food in all of Europe, incredible people, and a style of football and kind of that's authentic. This is real football. This isn't what you're getting in the Premier League with tourist fans sitting in the stadiums and in teams that are built on spending billions of euros on whatever is the newest, hottest player in the world. These are fans that stick with the team no matter whether we're in 3rd division or 1st, winning or losing. These are players. Many of them come from around our area. People like Chris Ramos or someone like that who was born next to the stadium and would die for this crest. This is like what football is supposed to be. This is like what we all grew up with, thinking in the magic and the beauty of football. Anybody can go take some money, $1 billion that someone has that doesn't need it, and spend it on buying a bunch of top players. So we have players that care, that cry on. You probably saw the reactions of the players after the last game, the way that they engage with our fans. It's just a really special place, and there's nothing like it. I mean, I have looked at clubs and fans intimately around all of Europe, and you just don't have that combination of city, club, fans, relationship, again, in a context where you shouldn't have that, because we haven't won anything. We have nothing to celebrate. The last 6 months were torture, and yet here they are. So that to me, and then we come up in that context with incredible stories, right? We beat Real Madrid, we beat Barcelona, we beat Valencia, we beat Villarreal, we beat Atletico de Madrid. Like, we do things that other clubs of our scale aren't doing, and we do it with that incredible package around us. So it makes for a really incredible narrative, and people are seeing that. These documentary filmmakers that we bring this year, like, oh my God, this is incredible. So hopefully you'll see those films coming out soon.
Yeah, the energy when on the streets when the team bus are going to the game is crazy. Like, people going from balconies to see and to cheer for the team.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I think some only funny questions left.
Go ahead.
The club attitude to Iwan Alejo and Alejo, his memes, like I think he bites Villarreal player last season. And what do you think about him, and or maybe what the club thinks about him? There's funny moments with him.
Yeah, he was in the news today because I think he's on pace to maybe set the record this year for yellow cards too. So
Yeah.
he's no stranger to controversy. I like his passion. I mean, I think he loves the city. He loves this club. He wants to win. He can be a wild man sometimes, but he's doing it with the best intentions, which is to help this club win games. And he really loves this club. And so he's a crazy guy, but he's one of our crazy guys.
Yep. And also the club's attitude to Darwin Machis and his like not really the best situation with him like last spring, I think. Yeah, with his like the Spain. Oh, I forgot. The Spain also almost gave him like to the jail. Yeah,
Yeah.
but how the club feels about it, and like I think since this situation, he wasn't the same player because how he started the season with 2 goals against Villarreal, and then he just like lost, and only against Celta he scored an amazing goal. So what do you think about this situation?
I can't comment on the legal side of it, so I'll leave that for the club. But you know, in terms of a player, you see his brilliance. I mean, he can do incredible things. The goal he scored against Celta is one of the most incredible goals I've ever seen at CadIz. So, you know, and was at the most critical moment. I mean, if he doesn't score that goal, I think this season's over, right? You know, Celta goes up 6 points above us at that moment. You know, we're just drifting far away from safety. So, you know, you have this all the time with players that you know, show flashes of brilliance and come in for that one moment. I mean, last season, you know, I think a lot of fans got frustrated, for instance, with Alvaro Negredo. But you know, he scored, in my opinion, the most important goal of our entire season last year when he scored against Valladolid in just at the end of the game to give us our first victory of the season and entirely changed the trajectory of the season. So you never know who those kind of season-saving goals are going to come from and who's going to step up to be the hero. And so Darwin has been that for us a couple times this season, basically. And so for that, I'm grateful to him.
Yep, I think that's all. Thank you for the opportunity that you gave to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Great.
so much, Mr. Harburg, or how do we say in Cadiz? Muchas gracias, señor Harburg.
Thank you guys, and thank you for your passion for the club. It's so cool to have fans like you guys in places where we didn't even know we had fans, and you guys doing such a great job curating your community. So keep up the good work and keep being ambassadors for CadIz to take it to new places where it has not been before. And come see us sometime and watch a game with us.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you
Thank you.
very much.
All right, guys.